She screamed, "Get out of my car," leaving me alone on a dark road at 11 p.m. I walked 4 miles in the rain, soaked and shaking. She thought I'd be begging her back by morning. Instead, my silence triggered something she wasn't prepared for. I, Caleb Mitchell, 23, think I just ended my 5-year relationship in the most brutal way possible, by saying absolutely nothing. I'm still processing what happened last night. I'm not even sure if I'm the jerk here or if I finally grew a spine. My girlfriend, Sophie Turner, 23, and I have been together since high school. 5 years. We've been through everything together: prom, graduation, starting college, you name it. But lately, I've been feeling like I'm the only one actually in this relationship. Sophie's always been dramatic, I guess. If things don't go exactly her way, she throws these massive fits. I used to think it was just passion, that she cared so much about us that she got emotional. But now I'm wondering if I was just making excuses. Last night was supposed to be our date night. We had planned to see this movie Sophie had been talking about for weeks, then grab dinner at this place downtown. Simple, right? Wrong. The trouble started when we got to the theater and found out the showing was sold out. I suggested we catch the later show or pick a different movie, but Sophie was already fuming. She started muttering about how I should have bought tickets in advance, how I never plan anything properly. I thought maybe we could salvage the evening, so I suggested we just head to the restaurant we had reserved for dinner. She agreed, but I could tell she was still pissed. The drive started out silent, which should have been my first warning. We were taking the back roads home. Sophie always preferred the scenic route through the countryside instead of the main highways. It's this winding country road that cuts through farmland and woods, barely wide enough for 2 cars. During the day, it's pretty, but at night, it's just dark and empty. That's when she really let me have it. It started with her bringing up the tickets again, then escalated to how I'm just like my useless father. That was a low blow because she knows my dad left when I was 12. She was screaming while driving, and I was getting genuinely scared. "Can you please just focus on the road?" I said. Which was apparently the wrong thing to say. "Don't tell me how to drive," she screamed. "I'm tired of you always giving up on everything. I'm tired of dating someone with no backbone." She suddenly pulled over on this dark stretch of road. We were literally in the middle of nowhere, just empty fields on both sides and no houses in sight. The nearest town was probably 4 miles back the way we came. "You know what? I'm done with this. I'm done with you," she said, her voice shaking with rage. I thought she just needed a minute to cool down. "Come on, let's just talk about this. We can figure this out," I said. "Get out," she said, staring straight ahead. "What? Get out of my car." I was so shocked, I actually laughed. "You're kidding, right? We're in the middle of nowhere." She leaned across me and opened my door. "Find your own way home." I sat there for a second, thinking this had to be some kind of test. But when I looked at her face, I saw something I'd never seen before. Pure contempt. So I got out, and she drove off, just like that. Left me standing on a dark country road, about 4 miles from the nearest town, surrounded by nothing but empty fields. My phone was at 3% battery. It was starting to rain. I kept waiting for her to come back. Kept thinking she'd circle around, maybe honk the horn, and I'd get in, and we'd have our usual fight then make up cycle. But after 20 minutes of standing there, getting soaked, I realized she wasn't coming back. So I started walking. For miles in the rain, at 11 p.m., with my phone dying and no money for an Uber because I'd spent my last $40 on what was supposed to be our dinner reservation. The first mile, I kept thinking she'd come back, kept checking over my shoulder for her headlights. I was still making excuses for her in my head. Maybe she just needed to cool off. Maybe she'd realize how messed up this was and turn around. By the second mile, I was soaked through, and my phone was dead. That's when it really hit me. She wasn't coming back. She had actually left me out here in the rain at night and didn't give a damn what happened to me. By the third mile, something inside me just snapped. Not my heart, my patience. All those years of walking on eggshells, of apologizing for things that weren't my fault, of accepting her tantrums as passion, it all came flooding back as I trudged through the rain. I realized I'd been holding my breath for 5 years, waiting for the next explosion, the next time I'd have to fix something I didn't break. And standing there, drenched and abandoned, I finally exhaled. By the time I made it to the gas station at almost 1 a.m., I wasn't the same person who had been left on that street corner. I was done. When I finally got home, I had 47 missed calls and about 100 text messages from Sophie. Most of them were variations of "Where are you?" and "You're being ridiculous," and "This is so immature." Not one single apology for leaving me stranded. I didn't answer any of them. I haven't answered any of them today either. Part of me feels like a complete jerk for just ghosting someone I've been with for 5 years. But another part of me feels free, like I've been holding my breath for months and can finally breathe again. My roommate, Ethan, thinks I should at least text her back and officially break up instead of leaving her hanging. My sister, Olivia, says I should have done this years ago. I honestly don't know what to think. Is it wrong to end a relationship this way? Should I reach out and have the talk, or is my silence answer enough? Edit, holy crap, this blew up. Reading all your comments, I'm realizing some things I hadn't really processed. We'll update soon. Edit 2, to those asking, no, this isn't the first time Sophie has left me somewhere. Last year, she drove off after an argument and left me at her family's barbecue. Her mom had to drive me home. The time before that, she walked out of a restaurant and stuck me with a $150 bill. I always just figured it was part of her personality. Jesus, typing that out makes me feel like such an idiot. Update 1, so, it's been 5 days since the incident, and I haven't contacted Sophie at all. Radio silence, and honestly, it's been the most peaceful 5 days I've had in months. I didn't realize how much stress I'd been carrying around until it was gone. I'm sleeping better. My stomach doesn't hurt all the time. I actually enjoyed hanging out with my friends this weekend without constantly checking my phone or worrying about when Sophie would need me to come running. But here's where things get interesting, and a little scary. For the first 3 days, Sophie kept up her usual pattern, calling, texting, showing up at my apartment building. My roommate, Ethan, said she was there for like 2 hours on Tuesday, pressing the buzzer and yelling up at our window. I wasn't home, but apparently she was telling anyone who'd listen that I was having some kind of breakdown and she was worried about my mental health. Classic Sophie move, make herself the victim and me the crazy one. But then, nothing. Complete silence from her end too. At first, I thought maybe she'd finally gotten the message. Then yesterday, my friend Lucas, who's dating Sophie's roommate, gave me some intel that made my blood run cold. Dude, he said, I think Sophie's telling people you guys are just taking a break or some crap. Lucas says she's been acting totally normal, like nothing happened. She even asked his girlfriend, Mia, to double date with us next weekend. So, I guess while I've been processing the end of our relationship and finally seeing how toxic it was, she's been pretending it didn't happen. Like I'm just going to come crawling back with my tail between my legs, like always. This is exactly the kind of crap that made me want to leave in the first place. She never listens, never takes anything seriously unless it directly affects her. In her mind, I'm probably just being dramatic, and I'll get over it by next week. The worst part? A week ago, she might have been right. But something changed that night in the rain. I keep thinking about standing at that gas station at 1 a.m., completely soaked and exhausted. Realizing that the person who's supposed to love me most in the world had just left me stranded without a second thought. And not just left me after screaming at me in public for something that wasn't even my fault. I've been going through our text history, probably not the healthiest thing to do, but whatever. And I found some patterns that are making me sick to my stomach. Every time we fought, it was somehow my fault. Every time I tried to bring up something that bothered me, she turned it around to how I was being too sensitive. Every time she did something shitty, I was the one who ended up apologizing. It's like I was living in this alternate reality where nothing was ever her responsibility. How did I not see this before? My sister, Olivia, came over yesterday, and we talked for hours. She told me she's been waiting for this moment for literally years. You weren't yourself when you were with her, she said. You were like this anxious, jumpy version of my brother. That hit hard because it's true. I used to be confident, used to have opinions about things. When did I become this guy who just goes along with whatever to avoid conflict? So, here's my dilemma, Reddit. Do I reach out to explicitly break up with her, or do I let her keep living in her fantasy world where we're on a break? Part of me feels like I owe her a real conversation after 5 years. But another part of me knows that any conversation with Sophie will just turn into her talking me out of leaving, which she's done before, or making me feel guilty for abandoning her. I'm also kind of curious to see how long she'll keep pretending everything's fine. Will she really just wait for me to come back forever? Edit, a bunch of you are asking about my friends and why they didn't intervene before. Honestly, most of them tried to say something at various points, but I always defended her. I think they eventually gave up. Can't blame them. Edit 2, to the people saying I should just send one text to make it official, I hear you. But also, she left me on the side of the road in the rain. I feel like that was her text. Update 2, holy crap, guys. I don't even know where to start with this update. So, it's been almost a month since the night that changed everything. And I've been sticking to my guns about the no contact thing. But life's been happening, and I think I need to tell you about Lily. I met her 2 weeks ago at this coffee shop I've been going to, different from the one Sophie and I used to frequent because I'm not a masochist. I was just trying to study for my midterms in peace when this girl at the next table started quietly crying while staring at her laptop. Old me would have minded my own business. But something about the way she was trying so hard to hold it together reminded me of myself on that rainy night. So I walked over with some napkins and asked if she was okay. Turns out, her laptop had crashed right before a huge presentation was due, and she'd lost 3 days of work. No backup, nothing. She was convinced she was going to fail her marketing class. I'm a CS major, so I offered to take a look. Managed to recover most of her files, and she was so grateful she bought me coffee, and we ended up talking for hours. God, how do I even describe Lily? She's the complete opposite of Sophie in every way that matters. Where Sophie is loud and demanding, Lily is thoughtful and soft-spoken. Where Sophie makes everything about her, Lily actually listens when you talk. Where Sophie throws tantrums when things don't go her way, Lily just problem solves. We've been hanging out pretty regularly since then. Nothing romantic, just genuinely enjoying each other's company. She's been helping me see what a normal, healthy dynamic between two people actually looks like. But yesterday, everything went to hell. I had posted a picture on Instagram, just me and Lily at this bookstore we'd gone to. Nothing romantic, just two friends smiling at the camera. I didn't even think about it. Honestly, Sophie hasn't contacted me in weeks, and I figured she'd moved on. I was wrong. My phone started blowing up around 2 p.m. Missed calls, texts, Instagram DMs, even emails, all from Sophie. And they were intense. Who is that? Are you serious right now? You ghost me for a month and now you're flaunting some girl on social media? This is how you tell me we're over after 5 years? I can't believe you're doing this to me. I thought you were just being dramatic, but you're actually cheating on me. It went on for hours. By the time I got home from work, she was sitting on my front steps, completely hysterical. Who is she? She kept asking. How long has this been going on? Were you seeing her while we were together? I tried to explain that Lily is just a friend, that I met her weeks after our relationship ended. But Sophie wasn't hearing any of it. Our relationship didn't end, she screamed. We had a fight. People in relationships have fights. You don't just disappear for a month and start dating other people. And there it was, the confirmation of what I'd suspected. In her mind, we hadn't actually broken up. The night she left me stranded in the rain was just what? A minor disagreement? Sophie, I said, as calmly as I could, you left me on the side of the road in a thunderstorm. You didn't answer when I tried to call you the next day. You haven't apologized or even acknowledged that what you did was wrong. We are not together anymore. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You never said we were broken up. You just disappeared. I thought you were being a baby and would get over it. That's when something inside me snapped, not anger, exactly, but this crystal clear moment of seeing her for exactly who she is. I shouldn't have to say we're broken up when you abandon your boyfriend in the rain, I told her. The fact that you think that's normal relationship behavior is exactly why we're done. She started crying then, the kind of manipulative crying that used to make me cave immediately. But instead of feeling guilty, I just felt tired. Please, she sobbed, we can work this out. It's been 5 years, Caleb. 5 years. You can't throw that away over one fight. But it wasn't one fight, and we both knew it. It was 5 years of her treating me like an emotional punching bag and me taking it because I thought that's what love looked like. I went inside and left her on the steps. She stayed there for another hour before finally leaving. This morning, I woke up to more messages. She's promising to change, begging for another chance, even threatening to hurt herself if I don't respond. It's the full cycle of manipulation. And for the first time in our entire relationship, it's not working on me. The crazy part? I feel bad for her. Not guilty enough to take her back, but genuinely sorry that she's hurting. I think that's growth. Maybe. Lily texted me this morning, asking if I was okay. Mutual friends told her about the drama. When I explained the situation, she said something that really stuck with me. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. I think that's what I was trying to do for 5 years, save Sophie from herself. Fix her problems, absorb her anger so she wouldn't have to deal with consequences. But she never wanted to be saved. She just wanted someone to control. I'm done being that someone. Edit, Jesus Christ, the DMs I'm getting from women sharing similar stories. If you're reading this and it sounds familiar, please know that leaving someone on the side of the road is not normal relationship behavior, no matter how mad they are. Edit 2, yes, I'm considering a restraining order if the harassment continues. No, I'm not getting back together with her. Yes, Lily and I are taking things very slowly, but there's definitely something there. Final update, I know it's been a while since my last update, but I figured you guys deserve to know how this all turned out. Spoiler alert, I'm doing better than I ever imagined possible. Let me start with the Sophie situation, since I know that's what most of you are wondering about. After that final confrontation where she showed up at my apartment, things got worse before they got better. She spent the next 2 weeks basically stalking me, showing up at my work, my gym, the coffee shop where I study. She had found out where Lily lived and started leaving notes on her car. It was getting genuinely scary. So, I ended up filing for a restraining order. The look on her face when she got served, I don't know how to describe it. Like she genuinely couldn't understand how her actions had consequences. Even then, she kept insisting that I was overreacting and that she was just fighting for our relationship. But here's the kicker. While all this was happening, I found out through mutual friends that she had been telling people a completely different story. According to her version, I had been emotionally abusive throughout our relationship and had suddenly snapped and started seeing other women. She was painting herself as the victim of my psychological manipulation. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. A few of our old friends actually believed her version, which hurt at first. But then I realized that anyone who knew me well enough would see through the lies, and anyone who didn't know me well enough to see through it wasn't really a loss. The restraining order worked, mostly. There were a couple of violations, texts from burner numbers, showing up at places she wasn't supposed to be. But eventually, she seemed to get the message. Through the grapevine, I heard she had jumped into a new relationship pretty quickly. Some guy from her work who apparently treats her like a queen, her words, according to our mutual friend, Mia. I felt bad for him, honestly, but also, not my circus, not my monkeys anymore. Then, about 3 months ago, Mia told me something that made my blood run cold. Sophie's new relationship had crashed and burned spectacularly. Apparently, she had pulled the same stuff with him, public fights, emotional manipulation, leaving him stranded places when she was angry. But unlike me, he had noped out after just 2 months. According to Mia, Sophie had tried this with 3 different guys since our breakup. Each relationship followed the same pattern: love bombing in the beginning, gradual escalation of controlling behavior, explosive fights, and then confusion when the guy inevitably left. The last guy she dated had apparently told her straight up that she needed therapy before she tried to date anyone else. Mia said Sophie was devastated and kept asking why all men are jerks and why she can't find anyone willing to fight for the relationship. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, but mostly I just felt sad. Sad that it took me 5 years to see what those other guys saw in weeks. Sad that she's probably going to keep repeating this cycle until she gets help. Sad that I wasted so much of my early 20s thinking that drama and chaos were signs of passion. But enough about her. Let me tell you about the good stuff. Lily and I have been officially together for 4 months now. And guys, I didn't know relationships could be like this. We've never had a screaming fight, not once. We disagree sometimes, obviously, but we talk about it like adults. She listens to my concerns without getting defensive. I listen to hers without feeling attacked. Last month, we had our first real test. I had planned this elaborate date for her birthday, but everything that could go wrong did go wrong. The restaurant lost our reservation. It started pouring rain. My car got a flat tire. With Sophie, this would have been a relationship-ending catastrophe, full of blame and tears. Lily just laughed and said, "Well, this is an adventure." We ended up getting takeout Chinese food and eating it in my apartment while watching Netflix. She said it was the best birthday she'd ever had because we were together. I actually cried a little that night, thinking about how different my life could have been if I'd known that this kind of love existed. The best part? I feel like myself again. I have opinions. I make decisions without second-guessing myself into oblivion. My friends have commented on how much happier and more confident I seem. My sister, Olivia, says I'm finally acting like the brother she remembers from before Sophie. I've also been going to therapy, which has been incredibly helpful. My therapist helped me understand that what I experienced was actually a form of emotional abuse and that my recovery involves learning to trust my own judgment again. It's been hard work, but so worth it. Looking back, I can't believe I almost stayed in that relationship. I can't believe I thought that constant anxiety and walking on eggshells was normal. I can't believe I let someone convince me that love meant accepting being treated like garbage. I'm 24 now, and I feel like my real life is just beginning. I have a girlfriend who actually likes me as a person, not just as someone to control. I have my confidence back. I have plans and dreams that don't involve constantly managing someone else's emotions. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd gotten in that car when Sophie came back for me that night. If I'd apologized for defending myself and gone back to the same old cycle, I'd probably still be there. Still thinking that chaos equals love. Still slowly losing pieces of myself until there was nothing left. That rainy night was the worst night of my life. But it was also the night that saved my life. Oh, and one final note. If you're Sophie and you're reading this, and knowing you, you probably are, I hope you get the help you need. I genuinely do. But that help isn't going to come from me or any other boyfriend. It has to come from you deciding that you want to be better. I'm done being your emotional punching bag. I'm done being your safety net. I'm done pretending that love means accepting abuse. I'm finally, truly, completely done, and I've never been happier. Edit, the response to this has been overwhelming. To everyone sharing their own stories in the comments and DMs, you're not alone. And it does get better, so much better than you can imagine. Edit 2, no, I won't be sharing Lily's social media or any identifying information about her. She's a private person, and she doesn't need Sophie's drama in her life. Edit 3, for those asking, yes, the restraining order is still in effect. No, I haven't heard from Sophie directly in months.